Success Insight shares the stories of the people with passion and drive who make things happen in the world. Here's your host, Howard Fox.
Hello, everybody. This is Howard Fox for my co-host, Randy Ford, and I want to welcome you this Friday afternoon to the Success Insight podcast. Today, I'd like to share a little bit about my guest. Amor Traceski is a two-time cancer survivor. She was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2013 and then ovarian cancer in 2016. Now, she has also suffered some effects of the treatment, but amidst her many challenges, this has not fazed her. Not only did she not dwell on her negative circumstances, she embraced life and found a higher purpose, a mission of life for life. Amor believes that she survived so she can help share her knowledge and wisdom born from the experience with others and help them cope and continue living life despite the disease. And with that focus, Amor authored her first book, Been There, Done That, Practical Tips and Wisdom from Cancer Survivors for Cancer Patients. Today, Amor lives happily in California with her significant other and is blessed by the presence of her daughter living nearby. Words cannot adequately describe the gratitude she feels for the unconditional love and support for her siblings and friends who have been with her through thick and thin. Amor believes her strong faith in God is the foundation which gives her strength and focus needed to thrive every day, whatever may come. And she hopes that this book will be the first of many books to bring hope, enlightenment, and support to all who need it. And I have to tell you, Amor, I am humbled, and I really am so grateful you are spending time with us today on the Success Insight podcast.
Wow, thank you so much, Howard, for that wonderful introduction. My goodness. And now I am the one who is humbled and very honored to be in your podcast. Thank you for inviting me.
You know, when we first sent out the invitations on LinkedIn, we were searching for authors, and we really didn't know who we would find. I mean, a podcast, as we were building it around, our business of, leadership and LinkedIn, et cetera. And we thought, a lot of our authors, a lot of our guests are authors in their own right. So when we put the LinkedIn emails together to send out, and when I received your email and you told me the title of the book, right away I'm thinking, I have got to get her on the show. I have been involved peripherally through career coaching with the community in Chicago that is navigating the trials and tribulations of cancer and cancer treatment. And I see, what they're going through. And I tell you, I just cannot imagine having to go through what they're going through and the strength and perseverance they need. And so again, coming back to you, I'm just totally amazed. And the fact that you wrote this book, tell us a little bit about why this book. I mean, it's so needed today and everything we're going through. And you're on a mission. I'd love for you to share that.
Yes. So when I first found out that I had breast cancer, I was shocked. And that's the normal or the natural reaction whenever you get a cancer diagnosis, because more often than not, people think, oh, it'll be someone else and not me. So I was one of them. And then when I got the diagnosis, I was shocked. And then I just went and tried to find out about it, but I was numb in the beginning, and then all my emotions just poured out. I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know any cancer survivors. And so for me, it was my life is now turned upside down, and how do I continue my job or tell my children all these daily life activities? And I thought I was going to be crippled or disabled for a period of time. All these things, life activities you take for granted. Now, cancer hits you and death is knocking on the door. And I was really trying to find a book or some central location where I could get information, but I found that there was not one central place. I had to go to a library, I had to scan the internet. I had to talk to some people, the doctors, and it was overwhelming because there was a lot of contradictory information. And the same thing happened with my ovarian cancer experience. I thought, first of all, it was a shock, and then I thought that, oh, I've been through breast cancer, but then ovarian cancer is different. It was a totally different ballgame. So again, it's like, okay, what is ovarian cancer? How do I do? I had a tough hysterectomy, really tough side effects. The chemotherapy that went after that was a lot of pain and a lot of struggles. And then, of course, how was it affecting my loved ones? And again, I went out to search for the books. There's so many books out there, but not one book that shared the practical tips on how to continue life or navigate life while still going through cancer treatments. And then also, what were those treatments about? How would it be to go through chemo? What about losing my hair? How can I cope with that? How have other people coped with that? So I was able to think, after I went into remission, okay, I am going to fill that void. I have to fill that void. It's a need, because none of the cancer patients I talked to in my immediate environment in the infusion center, even the nurses couldn't give me an answer, and I wasn't able to find a book like this. So I thought, hey, I'm going to create the book. That's what I did.
I have to say, just listening to what you've just shared, I find it shocking in some ways. We have a condition that's been around for a long time, and we have different forms of it. We have associations, societies that are designed for the care and treatment of it. And we have the science of it, the doctors learning, the various healthcare practitioners learning their trade and sharing knowledge. But the idea that there's contradictory information, and I can imagine that frustration that you went through, and the individuals that were in the infusion center with you, they went through. And it's just, I find that shocking. I mean, I really do. And then, but I think the insight to say, I need to create a resource for people, I think it's amazing. Totally amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
What have you put together in the book? I mean, it's a rather long book.
Yes.
So describe how it's been structured.
Okay. It's structured like someone said it's like a DIY manual, like a do-it-yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The first part is getting to know each of the survivors. So there's a 2-page profile for each, giving you a summary of what they went through and what their outlook in life is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next part is about what happened when we found out we had cancer. And so each featured survivor details what they went through, and then after their sharing, they give advice, looking back on what they did, how they would do it differently, and their advice to cancer patients when they find out. And then I have then the next chapter is about sharing. Some people want to share news of their illness, and some don't want to, and it's okay, but it's how each of the survivors shared news of their illness. And then I have a long chapter with the different possible side effects. And I have a plethora of it, and how we dealt with the different side effects. Alopecia, for example, there are so many in my book. Of the 19 who went through losing our hair, our entire body, and how we dealt with that. There are also pictures. And then there's a part of how we dealt with the different procedures, medical procedures, radiation, chemo, targeted therapy, and colon resections, stuff like that. And also how we dealt with the scans, the MRIs, the PET scans. Then also how the patients dealt with the feeding tubes or the colostomy bags or the catheters, devices like that. And then there's a chapter on natural negative emotions, which is huge. You go through natural negative emotions. It's something that is really tough. It's part of the reality, but how we had to deal with it. We struggled through it, yet we were able to find a way out of it. And then there's a chapter on survivorship, how we dealt with life after cancer. You cannot ever go back to how we were before cancer.
Right.
It is now considered the new normal. And there are real struggles with that too. And then I have a chapter on the good stuff, I call it, what inspired and motivated and uplifted each of our cancer survivors. And there were many things. The chair yoga, the mindfulness, the acupuncture, prayers and the poems. Then I've got the nutrition chapter, what to eat, what not to eat. Then I've got the effective cancer fighting workouts also. My personal trainer actually contributed to that with pictures. That helps. And then I've got, and then I've got a miscellaneous where there is tips for the caregiver and what to say, what not to say to cancer patients, and what cancer is about, how we are staged, what the different treatments are for cancer. And there's also the humor part, because we need humor. We need those good cells that make us happy and laugh to counter the negative bad cells.
Right.
And then at the last, we've got the glossary of terms. That's 40 or over 40 pages filled with medical terms or terms that are regularly used during cancer treatment, so that the cancer patient does not have to ask, or that they'll know.
That sounds like a very comprehensive book, and I'm curious what the reaction has been from the community who are been afflicted by the cancer in their life, but also I'm curious about the reaction and response from the caregiving community, or not the caregiving community, the healthcare community, whether it be the doctors, the oncologists, the nurses, the variety of the support staff. What's been that reaction?
Oh, they love the book. I must say the nurses especially, because they understand that they can only give the medical part of information, taking care of the cancer patients, but when it comes to daily life, that they cannot really empathize with them, although some have had cancer themselves, but it's still difficult for them to everything. You get bits and pieces. The doctors, my uncle actually is a doctor himself, and when he first saw the book, he was apprehensive because he thought, hey, this is not medical information, right? Because I teach medicine at the University of Kansas, so does this book have anything that would counter what I say? I'm like, no, uncle, this is actual experience, what we went through. And I have a disclaimer in the book that says that this is not medical advice, and it's not meant to take the place of what your doctor advises you or instructs you. So, yeah.
Okay. Also, the reaction from the community, you have the 19 patients who joined you to contribute to the book. The folks, I mean, you've got some great reviews on Amazon right now, but I'm curious also, in fact, the book was recently released, in June, so it is new. What has been the reaction to the book from the community that is navigating cancer?
Yes, so they actually love it. I just met with a vice president of operations for Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital, and the chief medical officer actually bought a couple of the books for the hospital, and now she asked me to work with the cancer center and also work with the hospital and the group of the Dignity Health Hospital group in our area, and the cancer community. And it's unfortunately, cancer is growing, and there's still a lot of fear. There's still a lot of unknown. And what I can do is I can share with them and focusing on the practical aspects of living, how to continue living, not just from my perspective, but from the perspective of 18 other cancer survivors. And 5 of those survivors have metastatic cancer. 2 have pancreatic cancer, stage 4, and they're just so inspired. They're thriving despite the metastasis, and so that's the word we want to get out to cancer patients everywhere, including their loved ones, that even though you've been dealt this blow, you can still, there's still the light at the end of the tunnel. we need to find that strength. All of us have the strength within us to beat this. Not just medicine, it's in working in together with medicine to beat ourselves up. Right.
Excellent, excellent. Amor, in the time we have together, I'm curious, first question is, what's next for you? I mean, you've wonderful book, it's your journey as an author has just begun. What's next for you in this work?
Oh my, I want to bring this all over the world. It's already in the Philippines, and I need to find a publisher over there, but it's already in Europe. And so I want to go and speak to different groups. I want to coach. I'm already personally coaching several active cancer patients as they're struggling through their fears of treatment and what cancer is doing to their bodies. And so I'm trying to help them along and help ease their struggles. And so working with the different hospitals, not just the local hospital, but the different hospitals like Kaiser or Sutter, that's my goal. And I also plan to go to the different cancer events, the Relay for Life, the Making Strides in Breast Cancer, and just be with the community. That's now my mission. And so it's going to take a lot of time, but that's why I believe I'm alive. I'm here for a reason.
Of course. In the last few minutes we have together, Amor, if our listeners would like to learn more about you, what's the best way to do that? I mean, we're going to give everybody the links back to your books page on Amazon, so that we'll cover that. But if our listeners, whether they're navigating cancer now, or there's a loved one, a friend who's navigating it, what's the best way for them to start to get to know you and your work?
Yes. So if they're on Facebook, they can go on my Facebook page for the book, and it is Been There, Done That, Cancer Survivors, or they can type in Been There, Done That Practical, and the whole thing will come up, and they'll see my book there. And I write blogs every so often, and then they can also email me at Been There, Done That, Survive Cancer @gmail.com.
Been there, done that, survivecancer@gmail.com. So we'll include the links as well. Amor, once again, I mean, I'm humbled and so grateful that you are willing to take the time out of your day to kind of chat with us on the podcast about this. This is a book that there's a need for this book, continuous need, and anything we can do to make lives of the cancer patients and their families, other caregivers, more bearable as condition is navigated. So thank you so much for joining us and on the Success Insight podcast.
Thank you so much, Howard. I look forward to chatting with you some more on how we can co-create this wonderful possibilities for cancer patients and their loved ones.
I love it. So hang on just a minute while we sign off, and we can chat some more. There you have it, folks. Amor Traceski, author of Been There, Done That, Practical Tips and Wisdom from Cancer Survivors for Cancer Patients. Pretty heavy stuff, and you got to look in the mirror and just be grateful for every day we are able to look in the mirror. And when life does throw us a curve, know that books like this, folks like Amor are there helping to make the path a little bit easier. And so definitely go out to Amazon, get a copy of her book, and we'll search for her on Facebook as well. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal weekend, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Success Insight podcast. Take care.
Success Insight is a production of Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies. Find us online, successinsightpodcast.com.